Boom. We are live. Good morning, everyone. Uh, Back for another the raw, unfiltered, unedited. And as you know, my aim with these lives is to just speak about certain things that are on my mind with regards to strength and conditioning, athletic performance, fitness, whether it's a rant that I want to do, whether it's trying to help you guys enhance your training, athletic development, and ultimately try and win at your sports. So this is the second time I've jumped on. The first time I was obviously just trying to introduce the thoughts behind what I was doing. But today I want to speak about something that has completely exploded within the fitness industry, and that is Hyrox, the Hyrox fitness event, the race that a lot of you guys are now doing. You just have to walk into your local gym and you see a plethora of people training for this event, absolutely going at it to try and perform at either their first high rocks or they've done a few now, and they're trying to beat their times, they're trying to beat their mates' times, or they're even trying to move up into different categories. I know there is the pro event, I know there's an open category, and then there's obviously the doubles. So people have done their first event and then they're trying to move up into different categories, or they're just trying to beat their personal bests. But something that I want to speak about today with regards to Hyrox is it's becoming very apparent when walking around gyms, or even with the amount of people that inquire and ask about us trying to coach them or me trying to coach them into their first races, that all people are really doing is the simulators. Now, basically, what a simulator is it is it is Hyrox giving you a version of the event so that you can copy, go down the route, and see how you test against yourself. So, for those people who haven't done a Hyrox before, it's basically an event that involves 8K of running, split up into 8 sets of 1K runs with circuit based functional training elements that you have to do in between each of the K runs. So, for example, you do a 1K run, you jump off the treadmill or you jump off the run, and then you're straight into a 1,000-meter row before returning back to your treadmill again, and then you're running and trying to hit that K as fast as you can so you can come back off again and go on to your next one. So I'm just going to roll through what that involves. You have a 1K run, then a 1,000-meter row. You then have another 1K run and a 50 meter sled push. You jump back on again. You have another K run, followed by a 50-meter sled pull. You're then back on again for another K run. And then you have a burpee broad jumps for around 80 meters. You then have another K run before jumping back off. You've got 1,000-meter rowing, another K run, followed by 200 meters of farmer carries or loaded carries. You have another K run before 100 meters of sandbag lunges, back into another K run, your final K run. So you've done 8 now, and then you finish off with 100 times or 100 repetitions of wall balls. So as you can see, it's pretty metabolic. Your heart rate's going to be high. And these simulators that people are doing are basically mimicking this so that you can see how well you're doing and you can prep for your event. The doing this though is you're just basically chipping away at what you have. You're not necessarily structuring your training um, over a few months, over a few weeks, so that you can improve on areas of your fitness, areas of your training, so that you can basically better yourself and ready yourself for competition, which would be the event. So, one thing I want you to understand is there are certain elements within this Hyrox event that will give you light on the type of physiological qualities that you need to get better at, the type of skills that you need to adapt to so that you can perform within your race. There are clues on where you can order your training periodization over a certain period of time so that you can have good adaptations and basically improve your chances of improving your time or even just finishing your first event. So, one thing that we know for sure is that there are a massive amount of running involved in your Hyrox event. Around 50% of the event is running, and you'll probably be doing around 90 minutes on average of doing this. So, your training has to have some element of running involved in it in order for you to get better at your running and basically be able to tolerate the main bulk of what's going on. The other thing we know is that a lot of your running is going to be compromised, and it's going to be compromised because you will be working through different functional exercises within your challenges. For example, your 100-meter ski erg, your farmer carries, which is going to play a big role in how that compromises the way you feel when you jump back on a treadmill and you do your K run again. Example might be your heart rate is a lot higher. It's a lot more spiked than the first round. And as you go through your sets, that's going to get even bigger. So you're going to have to be able to tolerate this. The other thing is your legs are going to start to get smoked. If you think about when you do your sled pulls and pushes and your walking lunges, your legs are going to get burnt. You're going to feel that lactic acid building up, and then you're going to have to jump back on your running and then perform another K. So as time moves on, your running is going to be compromised, your heart rate is going to be spiked, and you're going to be able to feel this fatigue, and you're going to have to build the physiological qualities that are needed in order for you to get through your event. So there are some clues there straight away. A big bulk of your training is going to need to be running so that you can, or at least cardiovascular, so that you can perform one of the biggest tasks involved. But another big part of your training is being able to get your body in a state where it can deal with compromised running and an elevated heart rate. So when we look at that, we've got things like you have to have a good amount of aerobic conditioning, and you're likely going to split your training with a good amount of running because that's the biggest part of it, some biking so that you can continuously improve your cardiac output, but sometimes you can do this without being on your legs, so you can get more longevity in your training, so you can build your training zones, your heart rate, your aerobic conditioning. And rowing, because there's a part of your ergodynamics that are going to be within your circuit that you're going to have to improve on. So you're going to use different elements of cardio conditioning, aerobic conditioning, so that you can build one of the biggest bulks of what you're doing. Now, what I recommend is thinking about the event that you want to do and giving yourself at least 12 to 16 weeks for prep. And what this will allow you to do is periodize enough time where you can work on the physiological qualities that are needed with regards to your training, but also allow you to build enough skill to learn some of the strength and the circuit-based tasks that you have, so that you can push forward and do well within your training. So periodizing your event. And again, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people not giving themselves enough time, or just doing simulation after simulation after simulation, where they're just hitting circuit after circuit after circuit, and then basically just battering themselves. And the thing that we consistently see when we look at individuals that do this is that they don't monitor how we call it residual fatigue, how fatigue increases during training and how that masks performance. And if it's not periodized properly, if it's not working on the areas that you need to improve on properly, then the likelihood is fatigue is going to be your biggest blockage in you moving forwards and doing better within your event. So thinking about how you periodize, thinking about the physiological qualities that you should be using and the clues that are given to you. And then lastly, thinking about the skills that are involved with regards to some of the tasks that are in between the circuits of running. So for example, learning how to use the ski erg correctly, so you're not just pulling at the chains, pulling at the ergo as hard as you can. You're actually being economical, you're not leaking any energy, and this will help you with maintaining a good heart rate. And when you jump back on a treadmill to be doing your next K, you won't be smoked. Similarly, learning how to use the sled when you're pushing and pulling so that you don't gas out on your legs, so that you don't gas out on your upper body, getting that technical model well so that you don't leak any efficiency through moving it. So as you can see, when you move through the sleds, the broad jumps, the rowing, the ski, the farmer carries, it's really important that you spend time within your training also learning the technical model of the lifts, of the tasks, and sometimes doing this not in a compromised state, doing it in a fresh state gives you a chance to actually get better at these skills rather than just doing a sim where you're always doing it tired and you don't have a chance to improve upon those skills. So making sure that your periodization factors in enough time for you to put the required training in so that you adapt, understanding the clues of there is a big part of running, so we need to be working on our aerobic conditioning, but we also need to be working on compromised aerobic work and threshold work so that we can deal with the burn and be fitter. Also looking at the economy of the skills involved within all the different kind of tasks that you have to do across the board, spending time developing your skills, and then lastly, doing your strength training so that you can get more forceful. And it's important that you actually use some time within your periodization to dedicate strength training, not just the hit circuits, um, the interval training within your circuit training base that I just said, basically your circuits, and actually developing time to get stronger in fundamental movement patterns that are required within there. So, for example, your sled push and pull is telling you that you have to become more forceful in your lower body. So, factoring in proper lower body strength training is going to be important. So, you're squatting, you should have an element of squatting in your periodization that you can slowly, periodically get stronger at. The more force you produce, the easier it is going to be for you to shift the load, especially if you understand that. Another thing that we understand is that there's a lot of cyclical and unilateral work going on. So, for example, working on your sled, working on your lunges, working on your running, you can see that you have to do things unilaterally. So, having that factored into your training when you think about your lower body work is really important, so that you can get better at producing the things that you want to produce when you're trying to get forward and improve your training. So again, thinking about the clues that the event are giving you when you're doing your own needs analysis to improve, the physiological qualities you need to train, the skills that you need to get better at, spending some time within your training program actually dedicating that to strength training rather than just hits and circuits and all of these kind of things is very, very valuable, because you need to improve on those force outputs so that you can become more economical when you're doing your circuits. And then lastly, one of the things that you would need to improve on is your grip strength. So again, yes, spending time on your strength training with regards to your lower body strength, but you're going to have to hold things. So your farmer carries are going to be a big part of this. And 9 times out of 10, what we see with people is they just farmer carry. Now, this is a good way for you to increase your grip strength, but there are other ways within the gym where you can factor in things so that your grip strength gets better. So, having things with your upper body pulling and pushing and things like this will allow you to improve your grip strength. So when you tie all this in, the reason why having a really structured and thought out periodized plan is important is because you can tie in when you need to recover, how you're going to do your reps and sets, how you're going to do your circuits when it's time to circuit, when you're going to do your sims. I recommend doing your sims maybe once every 10 days so that you can see how you're getting on, not every single session, not every single week. When you do these kind of things, you can set benchmarks on how you're improving, how you're moving closer to the tasks at hand. Because we know there's a pro event, we know that there's an open event, and we know that there's doubles, and we know that things like loading with regards to the sleds, the prowlers, the sandbag lunges, we know that loading is going to be dictated by which category you're in. We also know that there's different times for the competitors to try and hit. And you will benchmark that based on whether you're a newbie or whether you've done many events and you want to work against that and try and improve it. But when you basically look at the clues that the event is giving you, you can really nail down and knuckle down on the things that you want to improve on. So for some people, they will say, I'm really bad at the skills of some of these lifts or some of these tasks, and I'm going to spend the next few months working on those skills whilst I keep my physiological qualities up so I can deal with the event. For other people, they're good with the skills, but they need to improve their general fitness. So they're going to be working on getting more runs in, more compromised runs in, more tempos in, and this is going to help them move forwards. For other people, they just need to get stronger. They're decent with their running, they're decent with their skills, but they're not producing enough force for them to deal with and become more economical in what they're doing and to be robust enough not to get injured. But for many of you, just to summarize it, for many of you, understanding how you block your programming and periodize your programming so that you can factor recovery in is going to be the key in unlocking you moving forwards. Again, what we tend to see is people just doing simulation after simulation after simulation, chipping away at the axe. And yes, you get fitter, but the thing that you do parallel to that is get fatigued. And that fatigue could be the determining factor that basically underlies you not performing to your highest ability on the day. And fatigue mask performance, just remember that. So having a good blocked 12 to 16 weeks where you periodize things, there is distinct reasoning and distinct priorities in what you're trying to achieve is of ultimate priority. And this will help you within your Hyrox event, but also if you're an athlete doing anything, it will help you prioritize what's needed so that you can move forward. The last thing that I would say is if you have the opportunity to work with a professional, it is a great idea to do some testing at the beginning and midway point of your training blocking. And what this will allow you to do is benchmark what you're strong at, what you're weak at, and then you can see whether your program is actually improving you rather than doing what most people do blind, is just do sims, keep chipping away and think that they're getting better. It'll also allow you prep if you're thinking about doing more high rocks to see how you are improving, but also to compare what your battery of testing looks like compared to people that you're aspiring to be like within the competitions. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on high rocks. Um, but you can take a lot away from what I'm talking about with regards to any sport. It's not just high rocks. The main mistake I see most people do is just chipping away at simulations and circuits and not working on the physiological qualities that are needed, the recovery that's required to get you in the best place, improving the skills required to do the circuits that you're tasked with, and lastly, just getting strong enough to deal with the event and being robust enough to not get injured. So I hope that helps. If you need anything, drop a comment and I'll be happy to help. Have a good day.